Hey guys, I'm Chase, and today I'm going to do a quick run through on the Salomon Quest 40 GTX. I've been using these boots now for about 2 years. Just picked up a new pair to replace the old ones, and I figured I'd just give a little update, share some of the things that I learned about them, some of the stuff that I liked, didn't like, and then a few tips and tricks to help make use of them along the way. But to start with, these things have about, they're over 600 miles on them. I kind of lost count, but they're pretty beaten down and broken now, and so I finally replaced them with a new set. But I learned a lot along the way. So first off, what are they? So these are Salomon's lightweight 40 GTX boot, and they retail for about 230 bucks, and they're about 1.5 pounds, I think 1.4 pounds per boot. So they're pretty lightweight, and they have a 2-year warranty. I did not use that on that last pair. I didn't have the need, but I have read that people have had to use that in the past if things start to delaminate or come apart. And I guess Salomon's pretty good about fixing or replacing boots that have any sort of issues in those first couple of years. And they're basically just a standard hiking boot with a fairly rigid sole, and then synthetic and leather upper, and then a Gore-Tex liner that gives the waterproofing. So I use these boots for quite a few things over the last couple of years, primarily a lot of hiking, backpacking, a little bit of alpine approach when I'm going up to go rock climbing, or even hunting, shed hunting, anything along those lines. Pretty much anything that wasn't needing an ultralight shoe, like a running shoe style, or when it was way too cold and I needed to have something that could use some semi-automatic crampons. So these have been used for a ton of different things for me. I've even done a little bit of running in them when I popped out on the road and had to run back to my car that I just kind of got a little disoriented from. And so a few of the things that I like about them, first off, they're super lightweight. So for being a mountain boot that's rigid and able to handle a lot of cross-country travel, they're very lightweight compared to a lot of the other pairs of boots that I've owned in the past. And they have really good ankle support. So I've carried packs of upward of 100 pounds while wearing these, and they do really well. They're good at edging, so they are able to hold an edge while you're going cross country pretty well without a trail. And that's something that's really nice, especially when you're loaded. They're waterproof. They have the Gore-Tex liner, like I mentioned, and that worked really well. Like Gore-Tex, or really any waterproof boot, they did go out after a certain period, and I'll talk about that later. But the waterproofing was nice, and they're very long lasting. I put upwards of 600 miles on these, which is the most I think I've ever put on a pair of boot without having to do any work to it, aside from lace replacement, and that's pretty incredible. And I liked them so much that I ordered another set. And then, like I said earlier, the warranty, I haven't had to use that, but it is there, and people do say that Salomon's been good about replacing boots that do have any sort of issues early on. And then the biggest thing is the break-in period. So these have virtually no break-in period. This first set, I can't remember exactly how I started wearing them, but I don't remember any issues in the beginning. And then I picked up this new pair, got it last week, and then went and took them on a climb the next day. Never worn them before. Went and climbed Mount Bora here in Idaho, which is a decent day hike, and I didn't have any issues at the end of the day. So those are all the good things. Now there was a few things that weren't so great. So the first one is, like I said, the waterproofing. With any boot that's this flexible, the waterproof linings, they tend to go out after a certain period of time. For these ones, I think they lasted me about 200 miles before I started noticing some leaks, and sometimes it's hard to tell if it's sweat or water coming in, but again, that liner membrane, they tend to break down after quite a few miles. The second thing is the laces. So again, laces are kind of disposable, but these ones lasted me about, I think, 500 miles. And then I blew one of them out. They had been fraying for a while before that. And I just replaced them with some paracord from my survival kit, and I'll talk about that again. And then another thing is the lace eye. So on the other boot from this old pair, I had the lace eye break right over here. Half of it broke off. Wasn't a huge deal. The lace still went through. It's a little bit sharp, so I was nervous about it cutting the lace, but it didn't end up doing that. So it just broke, and yeah. And then the other more obvious thing is the sidewall. So that came apart from the sole itself, both sides on both boots at about 600 miles. And I've actually worn them like this now for a while, and I don't really notice it. It doesn't bother me too much other than the rocks and pebbles I get in the sides. So that's why I ended up breaking down, and they're not waterproof anymore, obviously. But I just did a couple weeks ago, I think it was about just over 20-mile loop in these, and they still work okay. So those are the things that kind of fell apart on these. And then a few tips or tricks that I have to help kind of make use of these boots, or I guess it could be any boots really, is one, carry paracord. If your laces do break out, you can easily just relace with paracord. And if the eyes of the paracord or the boots are too small for paracord to run through, then you can actually pull the center out of your paracord. So the white strands that are inside of paracord, you can just strip that away, and then the outer shell is a little bit more low profile, so you can weave that through your laces a little bit easier. And then the second thing, again, this is what I do with all boots, is replacing the insoles. So I put a set of Superfeet insoles in these as soon as I got them, and I do that with every pair of shoes and boots that I get, just because my feet are familiar with them and I've been using them for years. And then another thing is leaving your knot tied when you're done wearing them. So once you've found a good, nice, snug fit, at the end of the day, instead of untying the knot and then unlacing it, you can just pull it off the top eyes and then undo it that way, and it'll give plenty of slack to get your foot in and out. And then that way when you lace them back up, they're already kind of preset into your previous position, as long as you're wearing the same socks. And then another little trick is if you have to do any running or any faster movement and you don't need quite as much ankle support, you can just tie them up at the base without using any of the lace eyes, and then that just gives you a little bit more ankle mobility, and so you can just run easier. And like I said, I think I ran like 4 or 5 miles one day in them after a hike, so that works out. And then one more thing is, if you are blister prone, aside from blister care after the fact, I usually just wear like a fairly light merino sock, but if you do get blisters easily, you can add in a sock liner. So this is just a really thin, I think it's polyester sock. This one's from Smartwool, and it basically just, you put this on first, and then you put on your normal sock over it, and then it moves that friction point from between your foot and your sock to between the two pairs of socks, so that the rubbing happens between the socks and not on your foot itself. And that's saved me before with other pairs of boots when I have had issues. But yeah, so that's it. Overall, these boots have been pretty awesome. They're really lightweight and long lasting, and just really resilient in the backcountry. I've used them from climbs in the Cascades, St. Helens, Adams, to the Sawtooths, to tons of miles of hunting and just hiking in general. And I've loved them, and that's why I picked up a second set. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll throw some links in the description below if you want to check these boots out. Thanks.